The 311th Infantry Regiment was a battle-tested unit of the United States Army whose history spans two global wars and the long post-war period that followed. Activated during World War I, reborn for World War II, and preserved in the post-war Army Reserve, the regiment earned a reputation for endurance and determination, particularly during some of the most grueling fighting on the Western Front. Serving in both wars as part of the 78th Infantry Division, known as the Lightning Division, the 311th fought in forests, river crossings, and fortified German defenses where infantry resilience proved decisive. World War I, baptism on the Western Front formation and training. The 311th Infantry Regiment was constituted in 1917 as part of the rapid expansion of the U.S. Army following America's entry into World War I. It was assigned to the 78th Infantry Division, a National Army division composed largely of draftees from New Jersey and the Mid-Atlantic states. The regiment trained initially at Camp Dix, New Jersey, where civilian volunteers and draftees were transformed into infantry soldiers. Training emphasized close-order drill, marksmanship, bayonet fighting, and trench warfare, skills essential for combat on the Western Front. Deployment to France. The 311th Infantry Regiment deployed to France in May 1918, joining the American Expeditionary Forces at a critical stage of the war. After additional training with Allied units, the regiment moved to the front lines as part of the growing American presence in combat operations. Combat operations. The regiment saw action during the final Allied offensives of the war, including operations connected to the Saint-Mihiel and Meuse-Argonne campaigns. Fighting was intense and costly. Advances against entrenched German positions, heavy artillery and machine gun fire, gas attacks, and difficult terrain. The 311th Infantry Regiment conducted assaults, held captured ground, and endured constant shelling as Allied forces pushed toward victory. End of the war. When the armistice was signed on the 11th of November 1918, the regiment was still engaged in forward areas. It later served in occupation duties before returning to the United States. The 311th Infantry Regiment was demobilized in 1919, its soldiers returning to civilian life, having survived one of the deadliest conflicts in history. World War II, return to combat reactivation and training. With the approach of another global war, the 311th Infantry Regiment was reactivated in 1942 as part of the reconstituted 78th Infantry Division. Once again, the regiment trained at Camp Butner, North Carolina, drawing heavily on draftees and reserve personnel. Training focused on modern infantry warfare, small unit tactics, coordination with armor and artillery night operations. Defensive and offensive combat leadership worked to rebuild regimental identity while preparing soldiers for the realities of mechanized, high-intensity warfare. Deployment to the European theater. The regiment deployed to England in late 1944, arriving as Allied forces were already fighting across France and Belgium. In December 1944, the 311th Infantry Regiment entered combat on the European mainland, just as German forces launched their final major offensive in the West. The Hurtgen Forest, War of Attrition. One of the regiment's most punishing assignments came in the Hurtgen Forest, near the German border. This battle became one of the longest and bloodiest engagements fought by U.S. forces in Europe. Conditions were brutal. Dense forests, limiting visibility and movement, cold, wet weather, well-prepared German defenses, extensive minefields, and artillery fire. The 311th Infantry Regiment fought to seize ground measured in yards rather than miles. Casualties mounted quickly, but the regiment continued pressing forward, clearing forest positions and holding ground under constant fire. The Rhineland and the Remagen bridgehead. In March 1945, Allied forces achieved a major breakthrough with the capture of the Ludendorff Bridge at Remagen. The 311th Infantry Regiment played a key role in expanding and defending the bridgehead east of the Rhine River. The regiment crossed into Germany and fought to expand Allied footholds, defeat German counterattacks, secure vital terrain combat was fast-moving and dangerous, as German forces attempted desperately to contain the Allied advance. Final drive into Germany. Following the Rhine crossing, the 311th Infantry Regiment advanced rapidly into central Germany. Resistance varied from determined rearguards to mass surrenders as German military cohesion collapsed. By April 1945, the regiment was deep inside Germany, conducting mopping-up operations and securing towns and transportation routes. On May 8, 1945, Victory in Europe Day, the men of the 311th stood as seasoned veterans of two of the most difficult campaigns of the European War. Demobilization and reserve status. Following the war, the 311th Infantry Regiment was inactivated in 1946 as part of the Army's post-war drawdown. Unlike many wartime units, however, the regiment's lineage was preserved within the Army Reserve. During the early Cold War years, the 311th existed as a reserve infantry formation, responsible for maintaining trained manpower and readiness in the event of renewed conflict. Later inactivation. As U.S. Army doctrine and force structure evolved, particularly with the introduction of new divisional organizations, the need for traditional reserve infantry regiments declined. The 311th Infantry Regiment was eventually fully inactivated, its honors and lineage preserved in Army records. The history of the 311th Infantry Regiment is defined by endurance in the face of attrition warfare. In World War I, it fought through the final offensives that broke the German army. In World War II, it endured some of the harshest combat faced by American infantry in Europe, from the Hürtgen Forest to the Rhine River. Though not always in the spotlight, the regiment's service proved essential to Allied victory. Its soldiers fought where the fighting was hardest, advanced when progress was slow, and held firm when conditions were at their worst. The legacy of the 311th Infantry Regiment stands as a testament to the American infantrymen, twice called to Europe, twice tested, and twice victorious.